restraint. Was it a bicycle? What is wrong with my brain? Is it the end of me? No, I must still believe. So I'm still in love, you see. Heck yeah, now I'm on my way. But let's stay focused, there's still a job in hand that we must do. Cameras start to click, we know what create is something new. So go Marty and Sarah and Mark and Matt, Owen, Smitty, McCrilly and Jamie Lane in the Archer County Band. The Archer County Band. The Archer County Band. The Archer County Band. Stop the clock, we're done, we're rolling. Sound the horn and sing that we are going. 27 hours, that is the time. So let's hop on the bus and let it shine, 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 shine. Say sha la 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 la, 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 sha la 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 la. Good afternoon, folks. You are very welcome to Bandido Talks. Well, we've had the Epstein files. The Epstein files, all 3 million of these documents, these images, these videos, they all dropped into public consciousness. And we covered this at the beginning of the week. Our show on Monday, we talked all about the Epstein files. We looked at the way to analyze the Epstein files from the perspective of the Bandido, of course. And we tried to extract whatever lessons we could from this new information. What are we to make of it all? So that's what we did on Monday. We went down through it, we extracted all of our lessons here on the show. But of course, other people on the planet have had a slightly different interpretation of the Epstein files. That goes without saying. And, you know, I've been watching this on X, on my feed on X. I've seen it on YouTube. The algorithm thinks it knows what I want to see. And maybe the algorithm's correct. Maybe the algorithm knows me better than I know myself. Lord Jesus, what are we to make of that? But anyway, on my feed on X, on YouTube, on Rumble, these platforms that the Bandido is using for his own show, what have I seen? Well, since the Epstein files have been released, and since we did our show here on Monday covering the Epstein files, I was not intending on coming back to this topic again so soon. I was very happy with Monday's show. We went over to Rumble. We did sort of a part 2 talking about confirmation bias with respect to the Epstein files. So we had our show here on YouTube, broadly tackling the Epstein files. We went over to Rumble. We did another show talking about confirmation bias. I thought I was done with the Epstein files, until I started to see some of the things that were coming up on my feed about lizard people. I need to be professional here while I'm analyzing this. The lizard people. Of course, whenever something controversial drops in public consciousness, you're going to get some people will interpret the information in a certain way. And then other people will, of course, have their own unique perspective on what Epstein means, on what the files mean, all of this information. And of course, there is a contingent of people on the internet who believe that the world is run by reptilian shapeshifters who masquerade as humans. But they're not really humans. They are this kind of strange non-human entity that feeds off low vibrational energy that humans emit. When humans feel depressed, when they feel sad, when they feel angry. Apparently, according to the theory, when humans feel what we are going to broadly define as negative emotions, when humans are in a negative emotional state, they give off, supposedly, this low vibrational, low frequency vibrational energy. And apparently, these reptilian shapeshifters, who are supposed to rule over the human race, allegedly, they feed off this low vibrational energy. That's what the theory says. And so apparently, what's happening is, Epstein, the files, governments, politicians, they're all in on it. And what's happening is, all of these people, all of these humans that work on behalf of these shape-shifting reptilians, apparently, the shape-shifting reptilians are controlling the humans like a puppet master. And they are getting our politicians and our wealthy elite to essentially get the general masses in a depressed, angry, negative state. And whenever the masses, when all of the people, all 8 billion people on the planet, when all 8 billion people are in this negative emotional state, they are giving off all of this low frequency or low vibrational frequency energy. And apparently, this is what sustains these shape-shifting reptilians. And so they are able to maintain their dominance over the human race. And that's what Epstein, according to these people, this contingent online, this is what Epstein symbolizes. It's a part of this big global cult, where the elites who sit at the top of this hierarchy, of this global cult, are these shape-shifting reptilians that can look like humans. They take human form. But then sometimes the mask slips. We sometimes catch it on camera or on video. And we actually see, sometimes we can see these reptilians shifting out of human form into their true form. And so apparently the theory goes, Epstein, all of this information, everything that politicians do, all of the wars in the world, all of the disgusting criminal behavior that we see in the world, drugs and child trafficking and all of these horrendous things that we see associated with the Epstein files, child sacrifice, drinking the blood of other children and humans, all of this stuff, allegedly, according to the theory says that all of this happens so that humanity as a whole is put into this negative emotional state, this low frequency or vibrational frequency state. Because once humanity is in this low frequency state, supposedly it is feeding and making these shape-shifting reptilians even stronger. And so their grip over humanity is even more concrete. It's even stronger. Don't shoot the messenger. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just relaying to you the theory. This is what we're going to talk about because I've started to see this theory getting propagated throughout my feed on X and YouTube and Rumble. A whole bunch of people are saying, it's the shape-shifting reptilians. They're trying to demoralize the general population. There might be some truth in that. We talked about that on Monday, about this aspect of trying to demoralize the public. That might be an accurate angle, perhaps. But then these folk, they take it a step further, you see. It's not just about demoralizing the public. It's about getting them to produce this type of frequency, this low vibrational frequency, so that these reptilian entities, they can feed off it and become stronger and cement their grip over humanity. Humans are their slaves, it would seem. That is the theory. We are going to talk all about this today because, as I've already said, when you have a big, significant news or information dump, depending on the personalities on the other end, humanity is marvelously diverse in terms of the different personalities. Isn't it, folks? No two people are the same. There's a marvelous diversity in human personality. And so everybody sees the world in a slightly different way. And depending on the unique mix of personality characteristics, openness to experience, conscientiousness, introversion, extroversion, disagreeableness, neuroticism, or emotional stability, when we pool all these together and all the little subcategories that make up these 5 main categories of human personality, of course, what can end up happening? Well, people have very different interpretations of the world. Some people think that Epstein is some sort of secret operative who works on behalf of certain governments across the planet. He was used as a means to acquire blackmail on rich, wealthy elites and politicians and celebrities that we know. And once he had blackmail on them, it meant that he had them by the nuts. And when he has these politicians and these rich, wealthy oligarchs by the nuts because he has leverage, because he has something that compromises them, it means whoever Epstein works for controls them. That's one narrative. Who knows if it's true? We just speculate here on Bandido Talks. Remember, I'm an idiot. I'm just an online idiot who doesn't know shit about the world. He just sits here in his little DIY studio on his little stool and spouts nonsense. But there's that theory. Then there's the other theory. Well, there are many theories. But the other theory that we are concerned about are the shape-shifting reptilians. Well, Jesus, we've come a long way. So we initially start, he's an operative. He's some military asset. He's intelligence. And he's collecting all of this compromised material that puts politicians and celebrities and rich, wealthy oligarchs at his mercy and at the mercy of his master. And so as a result, Epstein was a means to control entire governments and countries, and as such the world. That's one narrative, which may or may not be true. And then we jump from that to the shape-shifting reptilians. Holy Lord! A non-human entity that oversees everything. We can't perceive it, but it feeds off our low vibrational energy. Well, you see, it's a good thing we have Bandido Talks, isn't it, folks? There's no low vibrational energy here. There's no anger. There's no depression. There's no sadness. Not at Bandido Talks. We just spit facts and have some entertaining speculation. So if there are shape-shifting reptilians, they ain't going to get much low vibrational energy here from the Bandido. And perhaps not from his audience. But anyway, before we get into the show, folks, and we really get our teeth into this is going to be a good one. I would encourage you to like the live stream. Of course, if you are joining us live, get into the live chat. Let me know what you think as we go throughout the show. This should generate some interesting discussion if there is anybody watching live. Of course, if you are watching this live event after it has concluded, get down into the comments. Same thing applies. Let me know what you think about everything that we will talk about. And then finally, folks, if you like what we do in general here at Bandido Talks, if you find it interesting, insightful, valuable, or useful in some way, then feel free to subscribe to the channel here on YouTube. We are live, folks, here on YouTube Monday to Thursday, 4 p.m. Irish time. We are also live over on Rumble. Bandido Talks over on Rumble. Head over to Rumble and subscribe to Bandido Talks. After this live stream, of course, you will find all the information in the scrolling black banner below. So subscribe to both channels, here on YouTube and over on Rumble. And so, folks, with all of that out of the road, let us get into this afternoon's show. The shape-shifting reptilians. Now here's the thing, folks. I don't want to be poking and prodding and having a laugh at someone's theory. Bandido Talks is a bit about entertainment too, isn't it, folks? We have to. I mean, in the world in which we live, wouldn't it be such a demoralizing and sad place if we couldn't have a laugh? If we couldn't entertain ourselves from time to time? But shape-shifting reptilians, this is an interesting theory. And there is a broad lesson, folks, at the end of this. So stick with us. We'll get to the lesson at the end. There are always lessons in everything that we talk about here. But this theory, I've already laid it out in our little introduction. Again, the idea is you have this non-human entity, shape-shifting reptilians, that basically act like puppet masters. They are controlling the rich, wealthy elite among us and the politicians among us. And they get the rich, wealthy elite and the politicians to put humanity into really dire, depressing, horrendous circumstances. Why? Well, the reason why allegedly or supposedly these shape-shifting reptilians do this is because they are feeding off the low frequency vibrational energy of humans. And so in order to farm that energy, in order to get humans to give up this low frequency vibrational energy, humans need to be in a depressed, demoralized, angry, sad state. And how do you do that? Well, you orchestrate the world in such a way so that humans are constantly on the back foot, they don't have enough money, life seems worthless and purposeless and useless, and so as a result, people throw their hands up in the air and say, what's the point? Life is a waste of time, I'm depressed. And then people don't really do anything with their life. They emit all of this low frequency vibrational energy, which supposedly these reptilian shapeshifters feed off. All right, so we know that much. Hopefully that's clear. I hope I haven't misrepresented the theory. And if I have, oh well. Let me know in the comments if I've misrepresented the theory or if I have it correct. But anyway, why is all of this happening? Now, this theory has been around. I will just say this. This theory has been around for many decades. So this isn't something new. This hasn't just happened with the arrival of Epstein. This theory has been around for many decades. And as far as I can tell, perhaps even 4 or 5 decades. Certainly back to the early 1990s. And we had a gentleman called David Icke. He's still alive. David Icke. And he is the sort of world leader, you could say. He's from the Isle of Wight, here in the UK. He is the world leader, the world's authority, I suppose we could say, with respect to this particular theory. Now, David Icke says a lot of interesting things. And a lot of things, folks, to be fair, actually have some legitimacy. Now, with respect to his theory, though, because I don't want to wander off into all of these random other things that aren't related to the show or the topic in hand. Lizard people. So one of David Icke's big theories about life is this one about lizard people, about shape-shifting reptilians. All right, now, as I've said, this theory's been around for a while. And look, we've talked about this before on Bandido Talks. When you get new information about anything, what you want to have is an open mind. Now, you don't want your mind to be so open that your brains fall out and they sort of spew all over the floor. That's no use. Your brains need to stay in your head. So you don't want your mind literally so gaping wide open so that your brains fall out. Because those people who are so open to everything end up dying normally. Death normally awaits them because they are so open to all of these possibilities that they think that they can fly and all sorts of things. And then what do? They think, you know what, tomorrow morning I'm going to go up onto the roof of my house because I'm convinced that I can fly. I'm so open to possibilities here in life. Gravity might not actually apply to me. I'm so open to the idea that science may have gotten gravity wrong and that science has many things wrong. And so as a result, I'm going to go up onto my roof and I'm going to jump off my roof and fly and prove science wrong. And of course, what happens to this type of person? Science proves that gravity is a real thing, and they hurtle towards the ground, and then they are a splattered mess. And that's the end of their life. And so, we don't want to be so open like that, whereby we just believe everything we hear, think that everything in the world is one big conspiracy, all a bunch of nonsense, and so we're just going to live our existence with complete abandon. That will normally put us on the path to tissue damage and death. And we don't want that. We want to maintain the gift of life for as long as possible. Now, with that being said, it is important, within reason, folks, to have an open mind. Within reason. We want to allow someone to present their argument. We want to critically analyze their argument. And then, once we critically analyze their argument, we ask them questions, we do a bit of investigative work, then we can come to an informed conclusion. And everybody is entitled to their own opinion. You don't have to agree with the person with whom you are speaking. But what we should do is we should be open to speaking with people. We should be open to hearing what it is they have to say. We should be open to engaging in a discussion with them and asking questions and getting them to flesh out their worldview. That is where we should be open. And we should never become arrogant. And we should never believe that we have life worked out. Because that is right at that moment, folks, when you think that you have life worked out, that is when a very sharp object is going to be stuck up your rear end, and you're going to be in a lot of pain. In other words, you're going to miss something important. The big sharp object that's making a beeline for your hole. You're going to miss that because of your arrogance. And then all of a sudden, you've a pain up your hole. And we don't want that. So, we don't want to become arrogant. Arrogance can lead to sloppiness. It can lead to missed opportunity. It can lead to distortion, which can lead to mistakes and errors in our decision making. And if we do that enough, if we become arrogant enough that we have life sorted out and we start to close our mind and we put ourselves into a bubble and we are not open to hearing other people and their worldviews, then all of a sudden we can become so arrogant that not only do we miss opportunities, but we end up walking ourselves into a big, costly mistake. We don't want to do that. If we're going to make a mistake, we want to make sure that the cost is not detrimental to our existence or to our life. So, whether you believe in the theory of lizard people and shape-shifting reptilians, the first thing I would say to you is David Icke is, as far as I can tell, the world's leading authority on this particular theory. So, what I would encourage you to do, if you find this interesting, is I would encourage you to go and listen to some of his content. Yes, he has books. He is a big, prolific author. He's written many books over the last 3 decades. I have read none of his books, but I have listened to some of his content online for free on YouTube and elsewhere. Why have I done that? Well, it's the same reason that I do anything, folks. When I get new information about something, what do? I don't take second-hand accounts of what David Icke has said. No, I run the experiment fairly. I go straight to the source. In other words, I go to a David Icke interview. I remember the first time that I listened to David Icke. I would actually encourage you, this would be a good reference point if you're interested in this. David Icke, and his second name is spelled I-C-K-E. Icke. I-C-K-E. If you want a comprehensive analysis or overview of David Icke's worldview, he does an interview with James English. Anything Goes with James English. It's a podcast. So he does an interview with James English, and it's over 4 hours. And the very first time I heard about David Icke and his theories about reptilian shapeshifters and all of that, now my first reaction was, that seems a bit out there, to say the least. It seems a bit out there. There are many aspects of this that science is unable to verify. And so it seemed a bit out there. But he seems like an intelligent man. He has his theory. And what have I got to lose by hearing the man in his own words? So what did I do? I went and found a big long interview with David Icke. Over 4 hours on the James English podcast. Anything Goes with James English. And I listened to the whole thing. And look, the theory is interesting. It's very creative. It's like something out of a fictional novel. Now, I'm not here to shit on David Icke and his theory. Not at all. I'm just saying that when I first heard about it, it reminded me of something from a fictional novel or a movie. Now, that doesn't mean that it's complete bogus, and it doesn't mean that perhaps certain parts of it might have some legitimacy, and it doesn't mean that we shouldn't continue to investigate from a scientific perspective, because, folks, there are many things that science knows and many things that it does not know at the moment. So we have to be intellectually open here. Going back to what I'm saying earlier, we have to be open to the point where we are willing to listen to other people, and if I had the chance, I would speak with David Icke. I would have him on the show. I'd do an interview with him. And there would be no hostile cross-examination. I wouldn't be looking to try and pick a hole in his argument and try to make him look a certain way. No. What I would be doing is, I would be trying to understand the man's worldview as much as I can. Because once I understand his worldview, it puts me in an informed position. Now I'm informed. I can make a conclusion that is based off source material, primary source material. And that's the position we always want to get ourselves in. And so I listened to David Icke's interview with James English. I listened to a couple more interviews that he did. And so I felt like, in terms of getting content for free, because as I said, I didn't read his books, and I know David would perhaps say to me, well, you know, you haven't read my books. You've only got part of the picture. And that's a fair enough argument. I can't disagree with David on that. So maybe I should read his books. Maybe I will, if I get the time. But I've consumed some of his online content, and I've consumed it in a long-form context. So I'm not missing context. I haven't taken a clip out of context of David Icke. or his theory. So, that's the first thing I would say, folks. Make sure that if you're interested in this topic, go check out David Icke. Go check out other people. Hear them out. Listen to their theory. Listen to their perspective. Because that is the first important step that you must take here. I understand that the Epstein files dropping these 3 million new documents, I understand that everyone is going to have their own perspective on this. And I understand this huge variety or diversity in human personality. And so I know that when I look at a timeline or a feed on one of these social media platforms, I know I'm going to be bombarded with all of these differing opinions. Now, if you're not interested in the topic, then don't bother looking up David Icke. It's for those of you who are interested in a topic. If you're interested in lizard people, who apparently are running the world, well then why not go and listen to the person who seems to be one of the leading authorities with respect to this topic, and hear them out, listen to them. So that's the first thing. Always run the experiment fairly. Go to the source. Listen to them in a long-form context to make sure that you're not missing any nuance that you mightn't get from a clip. Okay, so we've talked about that before. That's fine. The other thing that I want to talk about here is sort of the broader lesson from all of this. Because we have this idea of shape-shifting reptilians running the world. What is the lesson to take away from this? Well, we could actually make the argument that what I've just said is an important lesson. Always run the experiment fairly. Go to the source, listen to the person. Have an open mind, be intellectually open. Don't allow your brains to spill out over the floor. In other words, don't go jumping off the roof of your house thinking that you're Superman, because you're so open to the idea that the theory of gravity mightn't be correct. Don't be an idiot. That goes without saying. So that's a good lesson. That's a good general lesson that we can take from this. But there's something else that I want to talk about here. And it's to do with how we interact with new information. New information like that of the Epstein files. Because this theory of shape-shifting reptilians, whether you believe it or not, this is something that is doing the rounds here on social media, on online platforms. People think that there are some non-human forces at play here, and that they are responsible for the events that we see happening on the planet. And so, when we have new information, especially information that's controversial, what you want to do is you want to be aware that human personalities and humanity as a whole has such a diversity of personality, and as a result, ways of interpreting new information, that what you need to do is you need to start getting comfortable with generating your own conclusions first. This is extremely important, and we've talked about this, folks, on other episodes, other shows. When we live in this information age, and we get all these theories about how the world works, we get all of these interpretations about information that's been thrown out into the public domain. And it's very tempting, folks. It's extremely tempting to just not bother your whole doing your own homework, not bother your whole coming to your own conclusion, and just simply take what other people are saying as the truth. That is a mistake, folks. And so when it comes to information like the Epstein files and then subsequent theories that rise out or that are birthed from information such as the Epstein files, like these shape-shifting reptilians, when you hear these things, what you really want to get into the habit of doing is, first and foremost, don't just try to find the solution, or don't try to essentially hijack someone else's thinking and make it your own. Don't be a thief in that sense. That's not good practice. As I've said many times before, there is no problem at all with cross-referencing your thinking with some other credible source or sources of information that you vetted and ran background checks on. No problem with cross-referencing your thinking. But folks, remember, to be able to cross-reference your thinking, you need to first have your own conclusions. Because if you don't have your own conclusions, then what is it that you are cross-referencing to? You're not cross-referencing from any base of information. It's an empty vessel. You need to have something from which point you can start to cross-reference and you can compare this thing with something. If you don't have anything in the first place, in other words, if you haven't actually come to your own conclusions first, how can you cross-reference if you yourself don't have anything to actually compare against other people's opinions? And so this is kind of a really good example here, folks, where you hear something that seems quite out there. Shape-shifting reptilians. It seems out there. And if you're scientifically inclined, it seems even more out there. And yes, we want to be intellectually open. Absolutely. We want to be open to the idea of hearing people out, going to the primary source. If we can talk with them, we talk with them and we ask them questions. That's true. But also, folks, we need to get out of this habit of just always looking to steal or hijack someone else's opinion about something and then claim it as our own. It's a really good habit to get into. If you can just shut out the noise, take a piece of information, do your own homework, and come to your own conclusions first. And then once you have some conclusions, now you're in a position to start cross-referencing. And then, when you start to cross-reference your conclusions with other people's conclusions, you might find out something new. You might think, oh, I can see I actually made a mistake there in my thinking. Oh, I misinterpreted that piece of information. Okay, right, I need to bear that in mind the next time I'm assessing something. I don't want to make that mistake again. But we have to get into the habit of generating our own conclusions, coming to our own worldview on our own. And then, yes, we seek to cross-reference so that we make sure that we're not making mistakes. But that's the habit we want to get into. And it was really interesting, actually. There's another thing that comes to my mind here about this entire topic. David Icke, who is this sort of one of these world leaders on this shape-shifting reptilian theory of life, he has had a bit of a beef with the American political commentator Alex Jones. Now, maybe some of you are familiar with Alex Jones. He has a show called InfoWars, and he gets labelled as a bit of a conspiracy theorist himself. And David Icke has really been sinking the boot into Alex Jones recently, certainly in the last few months, maybe even the last year, because Alex Jones likes Donald Trump. On the whole, he thinks Donald Trump is a net positive, a net benefit. And David Icke does not like Donald Trump. David Icke thinks Donald Trump is a puppet, that he's being played by these non-human reptilian entities. So they are at loggerheads with respect to this issue. And David Icke is saying, well, Alex, you know, I used to respect you. You used to be, I suppose you could say, trying to fight against the system. And now it looks like you've joined the system. You're now going to be a champion for Trump. You're going to be a champion for Elon Musk. You're going to be a champion for this new enrollment of AI, this new AI age. You've joined the system, Alex. This is what David Icke is saying to Alex Jones. You've sold out. You've sold your soul. You've joined the system, the very system that you were fighting against, Alex, all those years ago. You've succumbed. You've taken the check. You're a slave to your new master. Musk and Trump are your masters. And so this is what Ike is saying to Alex Jones. Now, Alex Jones is obviously aware of all of this criticism that's being directed his way from David Icke. And so Alex Jones said something very reasonable. Alex Jones said, David, I keep on reading and listening to you criticize me for joining the system, for selling out, for being a cuck to Elon Musk and Donald Trump, for looking to essentially endorse this new AI age that's going to be bestowed upon us all. I keep hearing you, David, criticizing me for all of these things. Well, you know what, David? Why don't you come on to my show and we'll have a debate? We'll have a discussion. You can put forward your viewpoints, I'll put mine forward, and then we'll let the audience decide. Now, Alex Jones has a huge platform. He has a huge platform over on Rumble. InfoWars, that's his show. Sort of a political commentary of what's happening in the world. And so Alex Jones is saying to David Icke, come on to the show. No problem. I'm inviting you on. And in fact, I've publicly invited you many times and you haven't came on. I've sent you private invitations and you haven't came on. This is what Alex Jones has said. And so Alex Jones put up a new video on X and he said, David, I'm going to once again offer you a public invitation to come on to my show. We can have a discussion and we can let the public decide. If the public thinks I'm a sellout, if they think I'm cucking to Musk and Trump, and that I've joined the system and taken the check and sold my soul, fine. You come on and you can debate me. And we can have a discussion. Very reasonable. No problem. Good idea. That would be useful for the watching and listening audience. They get to see both people. We've got David Icke with his theory of the world about shape-shifting reptilians, controlling all of the humans in power, so that the humans in power ignite wars and cause inflation and cause the economy to be a piece of shit and make people broke and keep people down and oppressed and make people depressed and demoralized about the world so that they give off this low-frequency vibrational energy which these non-human reptilian entities feed off. That's David Icke. That's his worldview. He thinks Trump and Musk, they are just puppets that are being manipulated by the puppet master, the non-human reptilian entities. And then we've got Alex Jones. He thinks that there's some good in Trump, that Trump is a net benefit, that Elon Musk is a net benefit, that he's doing good things too. There are things that he disagrees with when it comes to Trump and Musk and their actions, but on the whole, he doesn't mind them. He doesn't have a problem with AI being integrated in a good way into society. And so, okay, we have these two differing worldviews. There's some overlap, but there's some significant deviations. So great. I think it would be a great idea. It would be the intellectually open thing to do, to invite someone onto your show, and then you have a discussion. For an hour, for 2 hours, whatever it is. So David Icke would have the opportunity to come on and criticize Alex Jones's viewpoint in person in front of a live audience. Great. And Alex Jones has the ability to respond there on the spot. Fantastic. That's good for the viewing public. Now, what happened? David Icke refused the invitation. He gave what I'm going to call an excuse. It's an excuse. David Icke said, Alex, you are beyond debating at this stage. I think you are long lost to the system. There would be no value in me debating you at this stage. You are essentially so, You've become such a part of the fabric of the system that it wouldn't be a productive discussion. You go about your business, I'll go about my business, and we'll just go on our separate ways. Good luck, my friend. Lord Jesus. And this is what I mean, folks, when I talk about intellectual honesty and openness. David Icke. And again, I've went to David Icke's source material. I've went to his interviews. I've listened to him. I've seen him giving it the big one on X to Alex Jones. He gets the invitation and his arse falls out of his trousers. That's what it looks like to me. His arse fell out of his trousers and now he's making an excuse as to why he won't go on to Alex Jones's show. And here's the thing, folks. When we see this, we then need to come to our own conclusion about what to make of that. Forget about what everyone else is saying. For me, folks, you should be intellectually open to a discussion. And even though David Icke has so many things right, he really does. He's got a lot of things right about the world. But the fact that he will not debate Alex Jones, despite having this open invitation, and according to Alex Jones, he has apparently been giving David Icke all of these invitations, and David Icke won't turn up. And then we, folks, we have to sort of put our professional lens on and say, well, what's there to hide? Why not debate Alex Jones? There's a difference between going on to a podcast with James English. James English is the host. He's the interviewer. He's allowing David to talk. This is a little bit different. This is more of a debate. This is going to be a lively back and forth. So why are we not going on, David? This is what the viewing public would want to see. Put your ideas out into the marketplace for a debate and let the free market decide who makes the most sense. Is it Alex or is it David? And so, when I see that, folks, this is what I'm saying about being intellectually open, number one, but number two, coming to your own conclusions. First, when I see that, that makes me have a healthy suspicion for David Icke's information. It makes me suspicious of how valid it is. Because if you don't go on and debate your information, if you criticize someone on X, if you're giving it the big one to Alex Jones on X, but then when you're presented with the opportunity, you don't go on and debate him. When I'm forming my own conclusions about this shape-shifting reptilian theory, and you are one of the world's leading authorities on the theory, and you don't go on to debate Alex Jones when you have an open invitation, your theory loses credibility. You lose credibility. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means you lose credibility. And we have to be open and honest, folks, when we're trying to assess things. And that is the conclusion I come to with this theory. I see Alex Jones. He offers the open invitation. David Icke has been heavily criticizing Alex Jones on X, giving it the big one, calling Alex Jones a sellout, joining the system. He stopped fighting for what he used to fight for. All of this stuff. Okay, you now have the opportunity to put your ideas, out into the marketplace through debate. Richard Dawkins. We all know Richard Dawkins if we're scientists. He's the author of The Selfish Gene. Richard Dawkins, the thing that I will always admire about Richard Dawkins is he was always willing to debate his theory of the world with anyone. Another scientist, religious people, these people who are into the, spirituality and all of this stuff. Richard Dawkins always debated. He always put his ideas out into the marketplace through debate. Same with Christopher Hitchens. And these are the people that naturally will generate more credibility because they are willing to put it all on the line. They are willing. Seyfried Ammous, this is another one, author of the Bitcoin Standard. Seyfried Ammous, he is willing to go on to the debate stage and he will debate and argue why Bitcoin is the most superior money of all, including fiat currency and fiat money. He will go and he will debate the fiat money specialists and he will present the argument as to why Bitcoin is the hardest, in terms of hard money, is the hardest money, and it's the money that is most sought after by humanity in a free market. If there was a true free market that wasn't being tinkered with by governments and institutions, humanity would naturally gravitate to Bitcoin because it's the hardest money. It can't be inflated. It has a finite supply, 21 million coins. That's it. You can't inflate the Bitcoin economy because it has a finite supply. The scarcity is what gives Bitcoin its value. And that is why fiat money is not valuable, because you can print more of it. And when you print more of something, you devalue it. And when it becomes devalued, what happens? Inflation! When you print and print and print more money, it causes inflation because it devalues. It makes the current money in circulation less valuable. And so you need more money to buy things, and the prices of other things start to go all over the place. Your savings start to dissolve. They don't hold their value. So Seyfried Ammous, the author of the Bitcoin Standard, he is willing to go up on stage and debate his ideas with other fiat money specialists. Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens, they are intellectually open. They are willing to debate. They come to their own conclusions, and then they are willing and open to listening to other people, asking questions, taking in other new information, running it through their own analytical framework, and then they update their own conclusions. And we can learn something here as well, additionally, from this David Icke and Alex Jones debacle, this feud. This is what we don't want to do. We lose credibility, folks. Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens, Seyfried Ammous, just to name a few, they have my admiration, and they have enhanced credibility because they are willing to debate their ideas. There's no greater sign, in a sense, of someone's confidence in their own material, in their own worldview, as when you go and see them debating and putting it all out there. And so no matter what it is you think about shape-shifting reptilians, you want to first come to your own conclusions. Go and run a fair experiment. Go listen to David Icke. Go listen to what he has to say. But please, don't fall into the trap that David Icke himself seems to have fallen into, where he won't debate Alex Jones, despite giving Alex Jones a very hard time on Twitter, despite criticizing him constantly on Twitter, and provoking him, and poking him, and prodding him. And then when he's presented with the opportunity for a debate, his arse falls out of his trousers. Come to your own conclusions. Cross-reference your conclusions with other credible sources. Be intellectually open. And never be afraid to have a discussion about your own ideas with other people who may have a different worldview. That's good. Everybody benefits. David Icke would benefit from a discussion with Alex Jones. Alex Jones will benefit from a discussion with David Icke. Their audiences will benefit from that discussion. But it doesn't look like it's going to happen. Don't fall into those traps, folks. And you can see all of the lessons that we can actually take from this. With the intellectual openness. Always coming to your own conclusions. Cross-referencing your own conclusions. Always being open to a debate or a discussion, to discuss your ideas with people that you may not agree with people who have different worldviews to you. Those are the lessons, folks. Why are these so important? They're so important, folks, because the more informed we become about the facts of reality, the more distorted our worldview becomes. We have less distortion, which means our decision making is more accurate. The more accurate our decision making is, the better it is for our life. The more good decisions we make instead of bad ones. The fewer mistakes we make. So anyway, that's all shape-shifting reptilians can teach us. Let me have a look at the live chat here and see if anybody is getting active. Let's have a look and see. It looks like we've got one live chat. And it's from Quiz22. Quiz is back in the live chat. Let's see what Quiz has to say. He says the following. Now this is what we signed up for. Full-blown conspiracies. Go on the Bandido. Well, look. Here's the thing. Let me get my screen back up here. Here's the thing, Quiz. The underlying principle is things, yes, can get labelled as a conspiracy theory. And that is sort of a bit of a pejorative term nowadays. It's almost an insult whenever you get called a conspiracy theorist. Because conspiracy theorist has become synonymous with crackpot, quack, idiot. Those are the synonyms that are now associated. That is how conspiracy theorists, they kind of go into this category of just off the rocker. We can talk about that another day, perhaps why that has happened. But look, I'm intellectually open. I've listened to David Icke, and we can perhaps talk in more detail someday from a scientific perspective about shape-shifting reptilians and how plausible or not it is. But there's just a broad lesson to learn here. From David Icke, from Alex Jones, from Richard Dawkins, from Christopher Hitchens, from Seyfried Amoos, from all of these people. And of course, from this theory of shape-shifting reptilians. The broad lesson, or lessons, reside more in how we deal with information. It's extremely important. But who knows? Maybe Quizzed we'll get into the nuts and bolts of the conspiracy another time and try and flesh out and see how legitimate or not it is. But that's maybe for an episode on a different day. But that seems to be everything from the live chat. Let me just check and see that I haven't missed anyone. That seems to be everything. Let me check. That is indeed the whole pile, folks. And so that draws our show to a close here this Wednesday afternoon. Now, folks, I do need to give you a little update. I will not be here tomorrow. Normally we are live Monday to Thursday. But the Bandido has other business to attend to tomorrow. So I will not be here on YouTube, and I will not be over on Rumble either. That's tomorrow. So tomorrow, what date is it? The 5th. So tomorrow, the 5th of February, I will not be here on YouTube. I will not be over on Rumble either. Bandido has other business to sort out. Thursday's going to be a busy day for the Bandido. But anyway, that will draw our show today to a close. It will also draw all of our shows this week to a close. Really good shows, folks. I will be heading over to Rumble right now, 5 p.m, literally in a few minutes, to do our Rumble live stream. We're talking about a totally different topic, Luke's maxing. You've maybe never heard that term before. Head over to Rumble at 5 p.m. if you want to hear all about the Bandido's take on this new trend called Luke's maxing. That's what we're going to do over on Rumble. Again, folks, if you enjoyed the live stream or the show, feel free to give us a like or a thumbs up. Get down into the comments. Let me know what you thought about everything that we talked about. And then finally, folks, feel free to subscribe to the channel here on YouTube. Bandido Talks here on YouTube. Subscribe. You'll get notified of all of our new uploads, all of our new live shows, new content, new posts. Hit that subscription button. And of course, head over to Rumble. Use the scrolling black banner below. You will find all of the details to direct yourself over to Rumble. We have completely different content over there. It's more US-based content. I'm heading over there now to do our live show at 5 p.m. Irish time. Subscribe over on Rumble, Bandido Talks. Subscribe here on YouTube, Bandido Talks. That is a wrap for today, folks. That is a wrap for the week here on YouTube. I will be back next Monday at 4 p.m. Irish time If there are any changes to our schedule, I will of course let you know. I'll put a little post up to the channel, but at the moment it's 4 p.m. Irish time. I will be back next Monday. Enjoy the rest of your day, folks, and with all of that said, it is over and out this week, folks, from the Bandido.